There's something very instinctual about string instruments. And you could take someone from 1,000 years ago and you could put him in my shop today, and within minutes he'd be able to play on an instrument. He would be able to discover sounds and notes and tones and tunes and melodies that he would be able to relate to. I get real excited about is I am building instruments that will live longer than I will. And in the same way that I'm thrilled when I see an instrument that's 100 years old and I imagine the person that built it. And I can look inside and I can imagine the processes that he or she went through in building that instrument. Similarly, I'm excited by the prospect that someone 100 years from now is going to look inside my instrument and they're going to feel a connection. Very few things that we do in this life may have that effect 100 or 200 years from now. But a musical instrument very much has that potential, or a musician. They'll pick that instrument up 150 years from now and they will do things with it that I can't even imagine right now. But they will feel a connection. There will be a physical connection to me and what I did when I built that instrument. So there's kind of a timelessness to that, in both directions. When I work on old instruments, I get that connection from those people who did all those things and why they did them, and I have to try to understand that. I have the opportunity to try to understand that, and I have the opportunity of pushing something off into the future that other people will be able to play with and imagine and create with. I work a lot on his older instruments. I do a lot of repair work. And people say, well, a lot of people fall into one category. Either they do repair work and restoration work, or they build new instruments. I like both for some reason. I like doing both. And one of the things that in examining and working on old instruments, each one tells a story. Each one has a history, has a unique, audible story to tell. And so I can learn a lot from looking at an instrument. I mean, my basic way of learning has been to examine. So when an instrument comes in that sounds, that I think is exciting the way it sounds, I'll poke and I'll prod and I'll tap it and I'll measure it and I'll look inside and I'll try to figure out and understand why it sounds the way it does. That I've had this opportunity, and I continue to have the opportunity to build and to work on musical instruments. I think it's the most fascinating thing I can imagine for myself. And also working with musicians, I've met incredible people who always have new ideas that they kind of evoke out of me. And every instrument I build, every instrument I work on, it leaves my shop and with a blessing. And I, it thrills me to think that someone may play that instrument. It thrills me to hear one of my instruments being played by someone else and being cared for. I send these little puffs of my own essence out into the world, that are musical instruments, and the fact that other people will love them, will play them, will appreciate them, is just icing on the cake, so to speak, of my experience that I get when I actually build them.